my brother, my sister, my mom now living in Worcester. It was really difficult. My mom was trying to raise 3 kids on her own. We had really strange living situations with my mom's friends when we first moved here, and my grandparents eventually getting apartments of our own. And all those apartments were bad. We basically had to rely on welfare system for a very long time, which included stuff listening. I really hated all of those years. I always felt odd or strange or different, especially when I moved here. When I moved here, I was the kid from Texas with a strange accent, who wore cowboy boots, and country shirts, and just didn't fit in. And as soon as people would relax enough, the kids would relax enough to get to know me, or become my friend, my mom would usually end up finding a better place for us to be, and so I had to be. And I was starting the whole process over again of trying to find friends and everything, and being a new kid. And I did that so many times. I went to just about every grammar school there is in Worcester. I got to high school, and my mom found a great place for us to stay at that point. It wasn't in the best neighborhoods. It was on Castle Street, which isn't too far from here, now right next to Piedmont Street. But Castle Street was like a cooperative, and people owned parts of everybody's house on that street at that time. So everybody looked out for each other. So it was kind of like a little safe haven for us, and then all this craziness hangs out. But let me see. It was a nice place to be. It was a nice place to be. I have to say that. But being in high school, really sucked. I hated high school. I hated every single minute I was there. I can't remember really a good day in high school. I never ever finished one bit in high school, and that had part to do with me, and part not. But some of the reasons why I was kind of the outsider were two of the big reasons were I really like hard music. I like really rough, loud, crazy, on the edge music. When I was in high school, I listened to Black Flag and like early Metallica and just crazy fast stuff. And now I listen to groups like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, that kind of stuff. Anything that's on the edge. When I was in high school, like 83 to 87, everybody was into Duran Duran and Madonna and Michael Jackson, and so they were all kids, they were all hanging around, and here I was with my long hair, dyed funky colors, piercings, I just didn't fit in. And I hung around at that time with about a dozen or so kids that also had the funky hair and everything else, and we were labeled as the freaks of the school. People started calling us names like, well, they always did, names like, freaks and weirdos and metalheads and headbangers and stuff like that. But I'd have to say that the biggest reason why I was so separated in high school is because I'm gay. Being gay and liking that kind of music is an extreme contrast. I got into a lot of fights. I got into fights with people who I thought were my friends. Punk guys with mohawks, and I got into fights with people like my gym teacher, and fist fights, and really got out of hand. So high school completely sucked, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time in high school. I cut class a lot. I got out of there a lot because I was basically terrorized. School and stuff, chased and stuff like that. And all of this because of something I had no control over whatsoever. If I could have chosen a better path, I would have definitely taken it. I would be straight. I'll have 2 kids if possible. White picket fence, wife, good life, the easy of it. I think the easier path to take. I definitely would have taken that. If I had that choice, I did not have that choice. Control things inside of me as much as I wanted to, as much as I tried to. I was in high school, I did all of the things I was supposed to do. I did the dating game and the dances and the proms. I had a girl on my arm in the hallway, kissing me in my locker. I had dates and I had sex with these girls. Big parties with them. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. And I did all that stuff because I felt like I had to do it. Like that's what I had to do in order to be part of whatever, to be a human, to be alive. I thought that everyone would think of me if I gave in to these feelings. People would think of me as being perverted or sick. Everything that I had heard at that point from family, from schoolmates, from media even, it was a perverse way to be. It was something you did not want to be. You would need psychological help, all of that stuff. And I really was afraid, also. So I really felt completely separated from everyone in high school for obvious reasons. I was looking for ways to feel better. I was also looking for people who felt the same way as me. Obviously, nobody was going to put me in high school and convince me they were gay and hang out with me and whatever, But, they saw the way that I was treated. But I felt really bad. I mean, I had all this turmoil inside of me. Like, why is this happening? I don't want this to happen to me. And I had all these people coming down on me on sides. I just felt really hopeless. And so I looked for a way out, and the way that I found to kind of get out of that was to go to those keg parties all the time and to drink as much as I possibly could down my throat and to smoke crack or coke and to smoke crack and to snort heroin and to do whatever it took to make me numb to what was going on around me. And it worked. It got me really numb. The same people were at those keg parties most of the time, and they were still calling me names and stuff, and they're drunken stupors, and here I was, wasted, probably tripping on some kind of acid. I don't know what kind of month it was back then, but some kind of little piece of paper somewhere. And those people didn't bother me so much anymore. It just didn't matter. I came to find out that after time that wasn't a solution for what was going on, obviously. It was just kind of a way to stop or forget about what was going on. Everything was still going on, I just wasn't part of it. I was wasted. And I want to say something about those keg parties too, because I went to those parties and there'd be people there that I'd never consider having sex with. Because they weren't my type for some reason, they were too tall, too whatever, too fat, too short, too skinny, too whatever. But after having all that stuff in my system, those people didn't look so bad anymore. And it could have been a girl or a guy back then. I really just didn't discriminate, honestly. I just didn't care. So I had sex with people that I wouldn't necessarily have had sex with if I wasn't so wasted. So one thing I always push out to people when I come to talk is, if you get intoxicated, please keep your mind on that sex. If you do get intoxicated, it's hard not to stand up and walk sometimes. Your mind making intense decisions about life, which is what really comes down to today. I wish I had somebody come to me and say one sentence in my life, just one sentence, and that would be, if you have sex one time, you can die. If I had heard that, I think I would have really, really thought about everything that was going on around me before I acted on it. Maybe not. I know it was really hurt, so. But I had this feeling like I thought more about, wow, that's such an intense statement. Anyway, high school went by, and I was looking for other people who felt like me a lot. I obviously couldn't get into any gay bars or anything because I was still underage. And I really wanted to feel like I was part of a group and I belonged somewhere. And I found some some areas of the city where gay men hung out outside the gay bars, on what they call the block, which it's non-existent now, which is used to be down at the library. I'd hang around down there, and I met a lot of interesting people, some real assholes as well as some real good friends. And it was through all of these people that I first heard the word AIDS. I didn't hear anything about it in high school or anything. Just talking about it. They had TV barely going on then. It just started out, so they weren't gonna put condom ads on television. Oh my God, So I really never heard anything about HIV until I got on the streets and got involved, sort of, or was around the gay community. And these people told me basically that there was this disease, back then they called it like a gay cancer or GRID. I don't know if you guys ever heard that term. And people were dying. And that scared the hell out of me. And I kept thinking, what am I going to do about this? Well, the message that I got was, if you were in a monogamous relationship and if you didn't touch needles of any kind, you're going to be safe. And I don't have to go through the needle talk with you guys because you know what that's all about, right? So, right? You're not just talking drugs, you're talking steroids, piercings, tattoos, yada yada. But anyway, I knew that if I was in a monogamous relationship and if I didn't touch needles, then I was going to be upset. So I really pushed myself to find that relationship. Worked really hard at it. I went through a lot of people. I met this guy, a great guy, who was willing to get into a relationship with me, monogamously. And it was great, Back then, they really didn't have a test for HIV. I never really remember there being anything like that. And I never really thought about it too much, I never heard the term safe sex. I didn't know what that was all about. I didn't realize that when two guys had sex, they had to have condoms. I wasn't going to get pregnant, obviously, so, or he wasn't, so why use condoms? We really didn't think about that. It never really entered our mind. So, we stayed together for about 6 years. And in the 4th year of being together, my partner had an accident at work. He had ruptured tubis to his back. This on top of it in the same area. It was incredible pain. Got to the hospital, and after a bunch of people looked at him, surgeons, doctors, they all decided that it would be best if they removed these discs from his back and fused his spine together. That was the only way they were going to be able to control the pain he was having. So we said, go for it, of course, Well, during this whole process, before surgery, they were doing blood tests on him, and they asked him if he wanted the HIV antibodies in his blood because he was, at that time, a high risk group, being a gay man, and we all know that that's not a high risk group anymore. I'm sorry, I mean, condescending at all, but I talk to high school students most of the time, so it's really hard for me to get out of that mode, so don't mind me. I'm trying to find the line here. He had the test done and his test came back positive. And it shocked the hell out of both of us because we thought we were safe. We were in a monogamous relationship for 4 years, for God's sake. No sign of any kind of sickness, nothing at all. And we didn't use needles of any kind, so it was like, what the fuck is going on? So I went and had the test done myself in May of 1990 and I was 20 years old at the time. I'm almost 30 now, 30 this year. And it's been an incredible 9 years or so living with this virus. When I first got that test, I thought to myself, I'm going to die. I mean, that's all that kept going through my head. I thought I was going to die like that night and the next day. That's how tense the feeling was. I can remember going through so many emotions when I saw that test result, the positive letters on it. These big red letters basically glowing at me through the page. I think I felt anger first. I think I was really pissed off at this guy. I really thought that he had given me this and given my life. 5 minutes later or less, I felt guilty because I realized that it's possible that I could have had the virus to begin with and it took away. And there's no real way to find that out now. I don't focus on that as much. It bothers me from time to time, but I try not to focus on that. Because where's it going to get me, really? I'm gonna leave it there. What I'd like to do is find out what you guys want to know about. I can tell you about my family's reactions, my friends' reactions, the medication I take, the illness. I can tell you about all this stuff, but the reason why I come out is to find out what you want to know. So, anyway. Yeah. Most of my friends were pretty good, or I thought were pretty good. Most of them stuck by me. They were probably just as scared as I was. There was a couple people that could handle things, and to tell you the truth, I laid a lot of heavy stuff on some of these people. One person who was sort of a partner of mine for a short period of time, and also a friend from high school. Weird situation, but I told him that if there was ever a time that I got extremely sick and I knew that I was going to die, I was still with it and I wasn't crazy or anything, that I was probably going to take my own life because I didn't want to suffer. I didn't want my family to suffer, unfortunately, going through what I had seen, I don't know, 50, 100 of my friends go through already. Drowning in their own fluids. While you're in bed, take a breath every minute, if that. It was really hard for me to watch those people die, and I can't imagine what it would be like to have my family go through that too. I hold on to the memory of just about everyone who was dying, so I couldn't do that. But speaking of friends, yeah, I met a lot of friends after I became HIV positive, through support groups and things like that. Not only did I meet a lot of really good friends who understood what I was going through and felt the same thing that I felt at the time, but I had to watch just about everyone die, and that's kind of screwed up for somebody who's only just 20, 25 years old, back to go through. What does somebody usually think of when they're 20 years old? What does somebody usually plan when they're 20? I'll tell you what I was planning. I was planning my funeral. I was making sure that I paid for it in advance, so my family doesn't have to. I was thinking about the friends that were dying now. I was thinking about all the medication I was going to have to take that I was already taking. It's really, really screwed up for somebody to have to think about that at 20 years old. I still think about a lot of those things. First of all, I'm sorry. Did I answer your question? Okay, just making sure. I thought about all those things. I still have stuff going on now. Anything else from anybody? Well, it's been kind of a learning process. In the beginning, the first thing I did was I did what came natural or what I knew would make me feel better. I went out and I drank, and I did more drugs, and I got numb again. That was how I knew the response. Something that made me feel good really quick. And after a time, a friend of mine named Jerry Chingham, I don't know if you guys have heard that name, but he hasn't been around for a little while. He came to me and told me that he could see me basically throw my life away by drinking drugs as often and as long as I was, and that he would really like to see me do something else with it, take something of it, and that's when he introduced me to doing outreach work with the Rebel Posse, passing out condoms and info, and after that we kind of decided to build a program together to get people with HIV out talking to other people, especially high school people. I think it's more important to you guys, honestly. stuff, and health awareness has done some more stuff, and Parenthood has put together programs. It's all been really good and successful. Coping today is trying to figure out how much I've stunted my emotional growth by doing all those drugs and trying to forget how I used to feel. And trying to figure all that stuff out so I can be more whole, I guess, is my way of it now. The fear is still there. I still am afraid of dying, getting sick, losing people, but I can get through it. I have a really good support system. There were definite times when I thought about committing suicide for sure. Most of them were like in the early years, like 1994. I probably considered it 10 odd times. I don't know what exactly held me back from doing that. Maybe it was a little bit of fear of the unknown. I don't know exactly what it was. But I guess in some way, I knew I wasn't ready to die again. I had something to do. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
What kind of medications are you?
Well, as far as illnesses, I'm really lucky to continue being only HIV positive, not having AIDS. For the past 9 years. My T-cell count has been pretty good. You guys know about that? Okay. It's been around 350 or so, which is fair. My viral load test, that. The viral load test is somewhere around 250, I believe, right now. That test is, they actually take a little weird blood and they count the number of viruses. People have millions of copies of their blood. Some people have hundreds of thousands. The doctors recommend that you start taking medication if you have anything above like around 30 to 50,000 virus copies. When they first did the test on me, I had somewhere around, I think it was 60 or 90,000, somewhere between there. I forget exactly what the figure was. So I started taking medication. Well, I had actually been on that before that. I'm not going to do that. So I started taking a new medication anyway. 2 new meds. One's called Epivir and one's called Zerit. And basically, all they do is they get in the way of how the virus replicates itself. And these drugs have worked really well for me. They brought the virus down to undetectable levels, like way down below 50 copies. And my T cells have always been stable, pretty much around 350. Sometimes they go up a little, sometimes they go down, never below 200. I don't know if it's really meaningful to you guys, but I'm trying to make sense. My viral load has crept up somewhat. It's like around 250 now instead of maybe below 50. The ideal situation is to have the viral load test come out at being less than 50 copies per milliliter, and keep it there for a number of years. And if you can do that and keep the viral load down, which is kind of difficult, but if you keep it down for, like, say, 10 to 15 years, your immune system actually starts to rebuild itself. So in a sense, it's sort of not a cure, but an answer or a way to fight back against the virus. So if your immune system rebuilds itself, maybe it'll fight the virus off. And they're actually trying to work out ways to eradicate the virus from different parts of the body. It's hard to get past brain barriers. It's hard to get into the brain and destroy the virus in there. It's hard to get into certain lymph areas and stuff. And they're actually doing injection therapy right into the lymph nodes to try to eradicate the virus. Although I wish them all best of luck. I really see HIV as being something that is going to be a treatable disease, but not necessarily curable. I think about how we've treated viruses in the past, and I don't think we've ever cured a single one or gotten rid of one. We've just found ways of dealing with, suppressing, stuff like that. Viruses generally take their toll and either die off or they stay with you forever. Basically it's just the way the thing works. So I don't see there being a way for us to get rid of the virus. Just maybe knock it down, make it less harmful to the body. The one bad thing I have to say about medication therapy is back in 1990 they really medication and they didn't have any drugs. All they had was AZT. And all they knew was that this was one thing that helped knock down the virus. It brought T counts up, or it seemed to stabilize them anyways. So this is what they knew. They didn't have the viral load test to count the viruses in your blood. They didn't have all that stuff. So basically what they did was they believed that if you had less than 500 T cells, that your had been thoroughly suppressed and you should be on AZT therapy. So I was always under 500, so I started taking AZT right away. And AZT and me just don't get along. I had a really bad time with that stuff. Some people I know have taken it for years and have been able to take a ton of these pills and really don't have any side effects. Maybe a headache here and there, or something like that. But for me, I dealt with minor side effects from HIV, like headaches and stuff, for about 6 months. After that, I got such nausea. I got so incredible that I started projectile vomiting, basically. I could probably hit the camera from here, literally. It was bad. It got to the point where every single morning I woke up, that was the first thing I did. Even if I didn't have anything in my stomach, I hit the toilet, fly up, disgusting. I did that for over a year. I kept taking these pills. I kept puking for over a year because I really felt like it was my only hope. I thought this was my only thing. My wonder pill, the one thing that would help me fight this terrible virus off so it wouldn't kill me. And my quality of life was extremely low at that time. Not only was I vomiting, but I was doing stuff like, well, to give you an idea of what my day was like, puke. Then I try to get something in my stomach, dry toast or something. Maybe take a walk. I could around the block. I was so tired that I was sleeping about 10 or 11 hours at night, and I was taking anywhere between a 1 and 3 hour nap in the afternoon, just to be, period. I'm watching television, watch a movie, try to get something in my stomach for dinner between taking 5 pills a day, and go to bed. That was basically my life. I didn't have any chance of working. The pain and the vomiting that was going on constantly, there was no way. There was just no way. HIV took a lot of stuff away from me. It really did. It took my ability to work away from me for a long time. That's no longer true, but it did take a long time to get back to where I am now. I just recently started working again as a professor. So I haven't been really working again for a very long time. It took all my money away. I had built up somewhat of a savings account when I thought was pretty good. I had a pretty steady job full time. I was working as assistant manager in different like ice cream stores and stuff like that most of the time. I had a management position at Oh Goodies. I don't know if you guys remember that. But it was like sort of a shoot off on the front of it used to be in the gallery a long time ago. But I had a life. I had something, and I had to stop working. And I didn't have health insurance at that time. The last job that I had was at a dog grooming place, and they didn't offer such insurance. So I had to pay for all of this stuff out of my pocket. Basically, pay for all the medication, which was like $300 a month for AZT, the doctor's bills, all that stuff out of my pocket. So my savings was gone in a matter of months. It made me really fearful of living, of being sick, dying, being fearful of loss of stuff. Anything else? Anybody have any questions or thoughts?
Did you have your family, what kind of support network did you have, during that period of your life?
When when I first tested.
Yeah, yeah. Like, how was your family at that point? How were you, like, you said you built a support network now that you can turn back on, but
Right.
did you have that then, you know?
Barely. I had some friends, you know, and I had, well, at first I really didn't have, first test I really didn't have a network of HIV friends at all. I had some friends from high school that stuck with me and tried to be with me. They still talk to me and hang out with me today. So I had some support. My family's kind of split up, you know. My dad's in Texas, so it's difficult for him. He found out that I was positive. I'm sure his first thoughts were that I wouldn't be positive if I wasn't gay. And he probably blamed my mom for me being gay. Most definitely. But he's come around somewhat since then. He still doesn't talk about HIV, but I can't really blame him. He doesn't deal with negative issues really well. He was a Coast Guard during Vietnam, so, you know, he saw some heavy shit, and I can't blame him for veering away from negative things, you know what I mean? But eventually he's gonna have to deal with it, and I hope he does it sooner than later. My mom back then, my mom was in a weird place. I didn't tell my mom right away when I found out I was positive because my mom had worked so hard to drag herself out of that pit, basically, I don't know how to describe it, but out of poverty. She had gone to school the whole time when we were back here, years, very part-time schooling, to get her degree so she could open a daycare center. That's what she really is good at, taking care of kids, you know. Obviously. That was a joke. Anyway, not a good one, I guess. But she really had strived really hard, and I tested positive in May of 1990, and my mom was graduating in June of 1990. So I knew that if I had just spoken out and told my mom right away that I had tested positive and tried to rely on her, she would put her entire life on hold. I mean, I think that all mothers love their children so desperately that they want to help them in any way they possibly can. It's just my belief. And I know my mom would do that, and I didn't want her to do that because I had educated myself within time after I stopped drinking and stuff for the second time around. I knew that I was going to die right away eventually, and so I figured I'd just hold off and not tell mom and let her get her life together. And I don't know, she should know better than that. Mom's had like 6 sets and stuff, you know. And she eventually actually found my test record. I had shoved it in the back of this dusty file cabinet in our storage room that I thought she'd never touch. And of course, I think it was the very next day after I put it in there, Mom decided she was going to do some spring cleaning. So she found it, and she didn't tell me right away, actually. She wanted me to tell her. So, what she did was basically just hold on to me outside. I went to her house with her once, and she was out working in the garden. I ran inside and I said, Mom, I can study your phone for a second. You know, when I ran inside, I made an appointment with my HIV specialist. And while I was talking to the doctor, whatever, when I was finished with the appointment, I heard the phone, I turned around, and my mom was standing right there. And she was like, what was that about? Was that a doctor or something? You know, trying to egg it out of me. And I wasn't ready to tell her, I guess, at that point. And I said, yeah, I haven't been to see a doctor in years, and I just want to get a check to make sure things work right. And I should have known, you know, that my mom would have bought that. She let it go, but I mean, I didn't go to the doctor unless I was so sick I couldn't move, you know what I mean? So I should have got a clue. I'd say probably another week went by, and I called her on the phone, and she was crying. I said, Mom, what's going on? She said, don't you have something you want to tell me? And I knew what she was talking about, so I just put the phone and we went to her house, and we cried and talked and screamed at each other for And she refused to talk to me from that day forward, pretty much, about HIV. She was in complete denial and just didn't want to deal with it. Well, I couldn't say complete denial because my mom did take some steps to protect the family. She didn't want to learn about HIV, but she wanted to protect everybody from HIV. So what my mom decided to do was give me my own plate and glass, coffee cup, and spoon, and all that stuff. And my bedding and my clothes were always washed with bleach. Always. And bleach spots on my clothes for years. And my utensils, my food stuff, my dishes were all always washed in bleach too. And that was Mom trying to protect the family because she was ignorant, she didn't know, she just didn't understand. And so, and she wouldn't talk to me and find out, you know, that I'm going to have sex with anybody at home. And as long as I didn't shoot dope with them at home, which I wasn't about to do, I was petrified of needles. I could never stick one in my arm. So as long as she knew that, I figured she'd be okay. So what I did was, I left out newspaper articles and magazine articles about AIDS around the house in a very cluttered fashion, so that my mom would have to come along and pick them up. And I knew that if she was alone, which was 9 times out of 10, that she would read it and learn, and she did. And after things went along, Mom slowly lost the bleach and realized that it was cruelty off the same plate, and all that stuff was good. And now Mom deals with like over there she shoves broccoli in my face, or Brussels sprouts, or asparagus. It's like, eat this healthy stuff and you'll stay healthy. And it's like, you know, okay, I'll eat the broccoli, but give me a cheeseburger. You know, give me some pizza. I want some comfort. I want a Coke instead of everything. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Can I wear my hand? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I just like, what about like siblings and stuff too? Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have.
How are they with it? You know.
Great question.
I mean, because like I know if something like that happened to me, I know my parents would be worse about it than like my brother. Like I don't know.
Right. And to tell you the truth, my brother and sister were probably the coolest people that I was ever able to tell. I actually only got to tell my sister, and she was actually the only person that I can remember actually being able to sit down and tell that I was positive, besides some other partners. After that, it was kind of word of mouth. I hate it. I hate gossip, but you wouldn't believe. But I should have known it was going to happen because this is a very scary, big thing, you know. But my sister was able to cope pretty good, and she knew that I was in crisis, and she went right into support mode, and she was getting me out of bed when I was staying in bed too long one day. If I was depressed, she'd call me on the phone. If I didn't answer, she'd be banging on my door. Let's go get a hot fudge sundae. Let's go to the arcade. Let's go to the movies. Let's do something. You know, she'd pick me up on a sunny day. My sister was awesome. She started a family for herself, sort of. Since then, I constantly changing family. And I have a nephew, my only nephew, which is kind of cool. Spoil the shit out of him, you know? It's in the moment, which is great. My brother, I mean, he was still in high school when I first found out, and as time went on, it was like, he just doesn't have a grasp of life, like what to do with himself, what kind of job he wants to do, what kind of schooling he wants to pursue, and any of this stuff, you know. So he's at a really weird area, but occasionally we've had a couple talks, and he's been, you know, he's cool with it all. Never had a problem with being gay, he's never really had a problem with the HIV, or scared or anything like that. I mean, think about it, his life has been pretty much saturated from HIV since day one. I don't know about you guys. Can you remember a time when there wasn't HIV? You can? You can't? See, and it's only because I'm talking to college students that some of you can. In high school, I never understood the human time when there wasn't HIV, and that scares me because I did. You know, I remember God in the 80s, and early 80s and stuff, there was no such thing, you know, at least we never talked about it. In the 70s and stuff when I was a little kid, you know, forget it. But that's the signals. Good. Anything else you guys you want to talk about? Is there any bad stuff? You can share that stuff with me too. Something you disagreed with? Or?
The government gave you assistance financially for that, like you said, you were one of the assistance.
Oh yeah, no assistance right off the bat. Until I had nothing, I couldn't get anything. And when I finally did have something, they finally stuck me on welfare. And meanwhile, this whole time, I had applied for disability and stuff, because obviously I was disabled. So I applied for all that stuff, and I waited almost 3 years to get any kind of answer from them. And meanwhile, get money from welfare, which I didn't pay all that, you know, and all that stuff. So it sucks. There was no real assistance until you have nothing in this country, you don't get any help. And I kind of understand that in some ways. I wish there was some kind of system or program or something that helped people stay somewhat focused or somewhat in their financial bracket for a while, gave them a chance to at least catch up somehow, to get something, to, you know, if they gave me a chance to get health insurance, like maybe I could have fought to try to find a way to do it. But, you know, I don't know. That's wishful thinking, I guess. If that answers your question. Good one. That's one I haven't ever heard before, actually.
Just individually, because I've known seniors that have been completely wiped out. But I know seniors who just all their life savings, their entire estate, wiped out. Affliction of cancer, and it's just even they have whatever seniors have, Social Security benefits, but still, practically. I just want to, because AIDS is such a big thing, HIV is such a big thing.
It is, it's huge. But yeah, it's unfortunate there really isn't anything at all. Whether it be cancer, HIV, or anything like that, there really isn't much of it. Endorsement, Coca-Cola. Anything else? Anybody? Any other comments or thoughts or questions? I love questions.
Did you say you went back and informed all your partners about it? Did you talk to them about it, or
Well,
did you try to
honestly,
get in touch with them? Or?
think about how possible that could have been. I was in a relationship for 4 years before I found out.
Right.
So to go back 4 years to find everyone, impossible.
Right, yeah, I just didn't
And some of that time, I was so trashed that I don't actually remember everybody.
Yeah.
But the people that I do remember, I did speak with and all this stuff, because I could have, actually, if you think about this, I could have had HIV in my system since I was 14 years old, which is when I had my first sexual encounter. It's possible I picked it up then, never knew it, and carried it in my life until I needed to get it past the 20. You know? That's one of the scary things about HIV. It sits there forever and ever and never shows really any sign unless you get tested or something suddenly, you know, and usually devastatingly pops up. Something usually really serious happens before you even realize it. What were we doing?
Oh, I just, like, I mean,
Sorry, I got off my train of
yeah,
thought.
whole partners thing. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
I just.
Have any of your partners let you know test positive?
No, every single person that I told has tested negative, which is, you know, a great thing. It kind of leads to my relationship with Pete, the one I had for so long. I hate that, you know, I hate thinking about that stuff. This guy, I really thought we were all set. That angers me too sometimes. I didn't think, or, you know, I didn't have enough information. Which drives me nuts. It's so important to have the saturation of information we have now. I think about how kids are taught about HIV and stuff in school, and you know, I think it's extremely important. It's overkill in a big way, but it's just as good because the more times it's repeated, the more times they hear it, the more times they're going to know about it. And maybe it's, I don't know, sometimes I think maybe it is too much, so we're just going to throw it aside. But I don't know, how many times do you hear something hammering in your head before you just can't, you know, get it out? Part of life. Just make it part of life teachings. HIV today.
What's it like on a like how in high school as well. This,
It's
when I was
intense.
in high school, helping middle schoolers, it was a lot rougher. There's so much information out there. The groundwork really wasn't there.
Right, right. Well, I have done some talks with like kids in fifth grade. That's probably the lowest I've gone. And honestly, the fifth graders are the most responsive. They're awesome. It's like they know I'm coming the night before, and they sit at home and they write down like a million questions that they're going to ask, you know. And they sit there, and the whole time I'm speaking, they sit and they wait and they listen, and then boom, all the hands go up. And as soon as they ask a question, their hand goes up again, you know. And it's like all of them are just like into it, and they want to ask, and they're not afraid of being cool and all that stuff. In high school, you get a lot of that. A lot of people just sit back. You know, we know. You know, I'm not gay. I don't shoot drugs. Doesn't have to deal with me. You know, a lot of that stuff. Kids, hands down the air. You know, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard. I've done talks at Vogue, and that's really difficult. It's difficult to just have people shut up and pay attention for 2 seconds there. You know, I feel like I have to shock them constantly in order to get them to pay attention to me. You know, I just shoot out negative stuff all the time. I hate doing it. I don't like thinking about it. I mean, I know it's there. And I've gone to some high schools, like I do David Prouty and Spencer. I go there every single year, probably 2 or 3 times a year. And the kids are extremely respectful. If they disagree or don't want to be part of the class, they know they have 2 things coming in. It's going to be by HIV and AIDS, and then I'm gay. And if they have to get permission slips and all that stuff, but if they don't want to be in the class, they have a place to go. But then they have to write about why they don't want to be in the class, and what it is to some diversity. Yeah, so they always try to teach them something out. And I haven't had that happen very often. Maybe a kid every year that. And they're a great bunch of kids. I mean, they have questions to ask. They're very respectful. They have actual intelligent questions to ask, which doesn't happen a lot sometimes either. I find that at certain schools where the coolness factor is, 10 and above, kids are always trying to get me embarrassed. They're always trying to say something to me to make me turn red, or I don't know. They think that I'm embarrassed because I'm gay, automatically. So if they say blowjob, it's going to make me wither into a corner, Some kids, they love talking about, they love talking about sex, period. But I remember this one kid, just for an example, to show you the shock value they have. One kid actually said to me, he started off by trying to seem serious, he said, is it possible that you can get HIV by going down a girl? And I said, well, yeah, it's very possible. HIV is like vaginal secretions. It's in high enough amounts of small drop to get infected. So how do you, stop that if you want to do that? How do you stop them from getting infected? I said, well, make a dental dam. If you can't find one of those, you can take a piece of saran wrap. It might be a little better if you slapped a little honey or something on there to make it taste better for you instead of being all plastic. And he said, well, that's my point. How do you taste it? And I was like, taste it? And I realized what he was thinking, He wanted to taste it. And I have to say that saying that to me, being a gay man, was a little bit embarrassing. I was like, whoa. Talk about some unfamiliar territory, pretty much. Not that familiar, anyway. But, no, I just said, the idea is not to taste it. If you taste it, then you put yourself in this. I selected that. But they do all those things all the time. High school kids are just like, and I think it depends on the school too. Some schools are rougher than others. South is pretty rough. Local is extremely rough. And it's even worse when I have to go to what they call them now, middle schools. Woo! Serious stuff there. Talk about homophobia, oh my God. And denial. Serious denial. Not happening to us. We are such straight men that will never get it, Definite guys all the time. It's really bizarre. I think it's really odd how, and and I've only seen this, like, because I've done this for so long, but guys compared to girls and the reactions I get are extreme. And it doesn't happen all the time. And I can honestly say with you guys, it's been pretty equal. Because you are adults. But with these children, it's like, my God, the girls are either sad, accepting, understanding, or giggling. Like somewhere in there. You know? And the guys, they do their little giggling thing too. But that doesn't seem to end a lot for the guys. It's all about jazz. It's all just really it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I have a question. Because I think that the big problem lies in the fact, because we've grown up in hearing all about HIV and school students are hearing about it, prevention and things like that. And there's so much saturation in that, whatever. But still, there's such a big gap between the knowledge and the action. You know, people, and it amazes me how people have the knowledge, they feel confident, and they know how you can get it, they know how you can't, supposedly.
Well, they can recite it back to you. Sure.
And then
they don't use it.
And then they don't use it. And that's one thing that.
It's not only that, but I think you said that it's overkill sometimes. If I was to be asked to write down a piece of paper how you can get it, how you can prevent it, from happening, what it actually is. I mean, some science classes and all that. Even sitting here thinking about it, I really couldn't. So with that, there's a huge gap. And in that gap, I think is people who they think they know what it is and deal with it, but then when it actually not only comes to ignoring it, that's also something that they don't understand. I don't really have a total understanding of how disease progresses, how you go from HIV to AIDS, different things like that.
Do you want to know some of that stuff?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Like what? I mean, how do you go from HIV to AIDS? I can tell you 2 ways that they classify you as having AIDS. Do you know about that? Okay. First of all, you have to have HIV. That stands for both ways. Okay. You have to have HIV in your blood. One of the 2 other things has to happen. You either have to have a T cell count of below 200. So HIV and T cells below 200 equals AIDS. Or HIV and homogenous infection together equals AIDS. Those 2 things. That's the only way that you can diagnose AIDS. It's actually AIDS itself, that word isn't really used for that, what do you call that? It's really used that much anymore. It's end stage illness now, HIV.
When you come back, you progress into AIDS, just anymore. Like, if you are declassified,
No.
yourself,
No. If you fall below 200 and you get an AIDS diagnosis, you have an AIDS diagnosis for the rest of your life. Even if your T cells go back to 500 and your viral load comes down to 0, no.
So what some people talk before whose T cell count went to 2, and then when he was speaking, he said,
Sounds like David. And like I just said, yeah, he's been an incredible backstory. When I first met this guy, he was really healthy, average build, nice guy. He progressed so quickly in illness over the time that I knew him, or know him, I should say, to the point where he was so thin I didn't recognize him. His face was almost gone. He was so thin and withered and he did really well. And honestly, all of us thought that he was going to die. We really thought we were all jumping in there and helping him do what we could. And I don't know what kind of state that put him in, but he couldn't help it like seeing that. David has since been on so many different drug treatments and therapies, including the 48's cocktail, that he's had an amazing bounce back. His T cells are way up, his viral loads are way down. He's taken testosterone therapy to the point where he's got like muscles, these huge muscles. I think to myself, oh geez, Give me some of that stuff. Anyway, he's had this incredible bounce back. He, right now, is so happy about life. He's like a little over proud, I think. But he's a great guy. Great guy. But yeah, like you said, you never get it back.
So now, in terms of actually getting AIDS, you said secretions. I'm being totally, I have no idea.
It's totally cool.
What does that mean? Like, you said your mother took the caution, utensils and stuff. Why? Like, why would that not be good?
Okay,
You
well,
can't get it from,
no.
you can get other viruses.
There are 5 body fluids that HIV is most prevalent in that a small drop of will cause you to be infected if it gets in your bloodstream. You guys know these 5 fluids. I'm sure you know a couple of names. Blood, semen, plasma secretion. Those are obvious, right? No, but that, I mean, I suppose it would be in the blood, so it's part of it. 2 others. Breast milk. Sure.
Great job.
Right. Preseminal fluid. It's basically the same thing as semen, it just comes out before. Those 5 things will get you HIV if you come in contact with your blood. Most of the time. I mean, it's still kind of a Russian roulette thing. Just because it comes in contact with you might mean you're only exposed. It might not mean that you're infected. Which is an odd thing to me, but it depends on lots of things. It depends on how your body is strong, how virulent the virus is against you. A lot of those things. Going back to health. Where were we?
How do you get it?
Okay.
Like, why it's not in saliva? Like,
The other body fluids, talking saliva, sweat, tears, those 3 things in specific have trace amounts of HIV in them. You can actually find the virus there. But it would literally take 5 quarts or more of HIV fluid at one time in your bloodstream to cause you to be infected because there's so little trace amounts of the virus. So I don't know anybody who's lucky enough to gives you 5 quarts of semen. You know what I'm saying? So the chances of that happening are so incredibly slim that we call them no risk fluids. And then there's absolutely no risk fluids, which are like vomit and urine, feces, whatever, that all don't contain any HIV at all, unless blood is present for some reason, or one of the other fluids or something I can't imagine.
Risk factors of oral sex.
Risk factors?
You get like percentages of how risky behavior is, like anal intercourse or straight intercourse, but they kind of get gray when it comes to either giving or receiving oral sex.
Right. That's a good point. And oral sex is considered slightly risky at this point. There has never been, as far as I know, a defined case of HIV transmitted by oral sex. There's usually other things going on, like intravenous drug use or vaginal or anal sex at the same, at the same moment. So they can't really knock it down to oral sex. But we believe, we're not exactly certain, that HIV is absorbed in the venous membrane in line with mouth, vagina, penis. So it's possible that it could be absorbed. More likely than not, if an infection occurred, I think it would be probably due to some kind of minor or microscopic cut or tear or something in the mouth, maybe a lesion, a sore or something. You bit your cheek, before you did it, or you brushed your teeth and you had a small bleeding gum or something.
These are typically risky oral sex givers who aren't doing anything else, so they can't narrow it down just to that one activity.
I'm sorry?
So there aren't like typically high-risk people out there who are just having oral sex.
I mean, usually if somebody's having oral sex, they're doing something else.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I guess they would speak up on it because I don't know. I've never heard of a study that was done on just people who had just oral sex. Generally, there's something else going on. But the new information tells us that oral sex is safer than either anal or vaginal sex. It's much safer if you use a condom, almost completely safe if you use a condom. If you don't use a condom, it's still safe. long as you don't spit it out, like gross or what. Swallowing is actually safer than spitting. And the reason for that is when you spit stuff out, you force it back through the mouth, through teeth or through whatever, causing possible infection. It's back to that throat, and it happens. The starts going to go down, and it's going to be come down.
That's so.
But that's, I know,
that's
that's,
so
I don't think it's
interesting.
the stomach. It's completely obliterated by stomach acid.
Just as far as like protection, and usually the less protective behaviors out there.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's no protection behavior for the most part. And I can understand why people want to, have a piece of rubber, you know, in between. You know, it's made sex into this plastic thing that it shouldn't be. You know, sex is meant to be this loving expression, and now it's like suddenly so medical and plastic. It's just sad.
I have two questions. One, have you had a lot of unpleasant experiences with people that are treatment and do they use something positive? And my second question is, have you felt that the new cocktails that are extending life to a normal age is really it's hurting people? It's helping other people?
Questions? Help me remember that these things like as I go along, just to show off for you.
The cocktail.
Okay, sure. Well, I don't mind speaking about both. As far as the cocktail goes, I do believe that it's helped people a lot. It's obviously increased life. It's, I don't know about quality, but all of the protease inhibitors are toxic, difficult to handle and manage. Some of them are horrible to take. Some you have to eat with, some you have to have an anti-stomach. One of them is only available in liquid form. And it could be that you've gone through all the protease inhibitors and now you have to take this particular medication. And it is extremely disgusting. Not only is it like 80 proof, you don't think it's easy. It's like 80 proof. And I mean, it's indescribable. Picture, I mean, I don't know, shit and penicillin and aspirin mixed together. I mean, it's nasty. It's pure. I mean, I've actually witnessed people who have taken a spoon of this, put it on their tongue, and instantly, you know, like quicker than that. Model it for that. But, so the medications are really, really hard to take. So when media hypes it all up, and it's like this miracle drug and cure and cocktail thing, and Magic Johnson is done injectable, and supposedly there's another virus get more bullshit. Okay, and he's going through some struggles, I'm telling you right now. That man has taken any of the protease inhibitors, he's having stomach problems, he's probably having problems with neuropathy, with weight loss, headaches. Oh God, the list goes on and on and on.
What about I've heard stories about people who are diagnosed, so you buy a car and they spend all the money on these medications, but then they have no kind of support if you're going to live for 20 years. So, because that seems like it really could affect the entire AIDS community and then manage all its life.
You're not ready for it. Exactly, you're not ready for it. It's almost like it's like a post-traumatic stress disorder or something like that. I forget exactly the terminology I'm using for it, but yeah, you like prepare yourself to die within a few years, and then suddenly you're faced with living, and you don't know where you're going because you've prepared your entire life up to the point where you're going to die. And I'm dealing with a little bit of that now, but I really was never ready to be prepared for it. I did the funeral thing and tried to plan that, arrange that, and everything, but I never signed a healthcare proxy ever because I was ready to give up that control. You know what I mean? To me, that meant like, oh, okay, there's something in it, I'm not ready to go through all this stuff, but I really wasn't ready to get it. So it's a really hard situation to be in. It's really hard. It causes a whole new problem, honestly. It's a great thing that we're living, but, you know, now what do we do? There's only so many paid service jobs out there, you know, honestly. I'm actually facing a move to San Francisco in August. I already signed a probably end up just like a coffee for a while. Whatever I need to do, I'm there.
You found out a lot of, like, when you apply for a job, you find a lot of, like, doesn't come out, you know, that you're rejected. And when it does, if it does it create a problem?
I honestly haven't had an experience where it has been a problem. The experience that I've had, the job I had before being a dog owner was the high school position. And, like I said, actually, scratch that. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have that job. I was tested. I was doing dog grooming when I was tested. And my boss had a dog grooming salon. Turned out to be not only gay but also HIV positive. So he was able to really help me out, and he gave me time to work. And he knew that I would be able to work. And if I was sick, he let me go. You know, let me go home and stuff. But of course, he couldn't pay me the time I wasn't there. So it came to a point where I wasn't working enough to support myself, and couldn't work enough to support myself. So, but I know there has been times when it's become problems for other people. My new position now, it had I'm a peer support counselor, peer support staff at H. Worcester. Just by the nature of the job, I have to be totally positive. And I'm good with that. I'm good with people who know that. I wasn't good up until probably 2 years ago. I wasn't happy with people finding out I was positive in any sense, not just on the job. And now I'm a lot better with it. Because everybody else is probably the way. Because I'm just trying to deal with it and live. And all the rest of it is bullshit. That's it. I had to come to that. Glad I did, actually. I answer all of your questions.
No, I have one more. Have you had any unpleasant experiences with people other than your sessions?
That's a good one.
Experiences with
Like fear. Like fear.
Well, surrounding HIV, it's been a little weird. I guess when it comes to like sex, that's probably where I've had the most problems. Going into a bar, trying to meet somebody, you know, playing all the games, doing all the signaling, and finally meeting somebody and having to say something. And I bounce back and forth on this, and let me stop and say, first of all, sometimes I get a lot of miscarriage conversation, and so I'm very important, but please don't kill me. When I first found out I was positive, I felt like I had to tell everyone that I thought that I had sex with. I really felt that it was something they needed to know. And I told those people, usually the way that it works, as far as I know, the gay scene and stuff is that you do the signals, you play the games, you meet somebody, and generally, you all have sex. That's really the way it goes, you know? Get wasted, you do whatever, and if you go out for a quick dessert or something, or whatever, or coffee, or whatever, you come back home, basically. And I felt like I had to tell everyone this. And I got a lot of reactions. I got people who slapped me. I got people who punched me, who just walked away. I had people tell me that it really didn't matter and everything was cool and fine and no big deal. And I received them again. So I guess those are some negative responses. After a while, I decided that I didn't have to tell anybody. And I guess the reason why I felt that way was because I felt like I had so much stuff to deal with, and it was my responsibility to stay alive and be healthy. And I felt like I had to be healthy for everyone. I had to protect everyone from me, you know, and I didn't want to do that. I felt like if anybody's going to be responsible for their own health, they're going to insist on condoms anyway, and I was going to insist on condoms. I just wasn't going to say it. That about whose responsibility it is to keep the world healthy. Is it my responsibility to keep the world healthy because of my illness? Or is it everybody's individual responsibility to keep themselves healthy? I know I have to keep myself healthy, but I have to protect myself now from other sexually transmitted diseases, from other viruses, and other all kinds. So, I just lay that out. I don't think I never get
Did you use protection every time?
always.
Protection usually comes that is very low. Like with protection, it's very, very low.
It's extreme. Right. It's extreme. And I've never had an encounter with anyone that's ever resulted in them being HIV positive.
What would you do if someone broke or something?
It's happened.
I mean, so I don't know. I don't know.
It's
It
okay.
doesn't seem like a heated debate, but I mean, I completely understand that it's your responsibility to keep yourself healthy. It's their responsibility to keep themselves healthy. But if you think that having HIV is so difficult, I'm assuming that you want to not have anyone else suffer. You know, so if there was any possibility that even that 1% of times the condoms don't work, or if they break, or anything like that, that's a risk factor right there. And I would just, I don't know, my just opinion is
It's a heavy burden. It's a heavy burden. But can you imagine? I mean, I don't know how it feels to live with this.
I know I can't imagine.
Exactly. That's why I probably did this because I felt so far removed from life as it was that was one more thing that was telling me that I was different, telling everyone else that I was different, that I was something other than a gay man. You know, I was a gay man with HIV, which somehow is a completely different social structure. I don't know exactly how that works. I'm ousted from the gay community as well as the straight community most of the time anyway. I'm completely from inside.
So how does it work with the common friends?
If you're still in the mood. You know,
Would you
I've
tell
dealt with
them
a
that
lot of guilt, honestly, through all those years.
if the condom or when the condom breaks, is that what you would tell them, or
Absolutely not. Oh my God. No, if I was going to tell somebody, it would be beforehand, if I was going to tell them. I honestly think, and this is another reason why I probably did it. I mean, I don't know if I have a good reason for it, but another reason why I probably did it was because I honestly don't know who these people are very well. Like I said before, when I went to the bar, it was a sex thing. I went there to meet guys to go home and have sex. That was like the thing. You know, hopefully it would be something that would maybe become a relationship eventually, or I could see them again at least, or something like that. But you know, most of the time it was just that. I don't know these people from home at all. You know, I just know a little bit about them. Spending a few odd hours drinking beers in a bar. It's the next person that I want to be Jeffrey Dahmer or somebody similar. Could have this big thing against people with HIV. Not to mention these people who are gay. You know what I mean? So I have to get back to that. I'm not saying it was right what I did, but I'm also not saying it was wrong. I think it all is a person who's living and dealing. I know many people, a lot of my good friends, who understand where I'm coming from, but they always tell somebody, just from their own personal beliefs. They understand, and they can relate somewhat to what I feel and how I am. Being the person I am today, I'm confident enough to know that, first of all, I think everyone in my community, in the gay community, is knowledgeable that I have AIDS. They all know. It's not like it's like a secret.
What about when you go to San Francisco?
Well, I've sort of tried to embark on this new life, and I'm hoping to continue this life. I'm hoping to continue being here, somehow helping other people with HIV. So knowing that, I'm going to be pretty open about my HIV status. I hope to be in the same relationship I'm in now, together. So
just, you know,
he's HIV positive. I came to a time also, I should explain this to you, I came to a time in my life where I also did not want
my question. Did you tell him before or after
Before and after.
you guys had sex? Or did he
Didn't
tell you before or after?
ask how. And the way that that happened was we did actually hook up in a bar when I was doing outreach. Okay.
So,
But no, I don't think he just knew from that. But we had actually attended a workshop on acupuncture together, and that was held at a special district. So I think that he assumed, me being in the workshop, and I assumed. And when I saw him, I didn't recognize him first. He recognized me, and so we just went to the workshop. So we didn't have to go to
but,
Sorry if I hurt you. I didn't
oh
mean to
no,
say
no,
that.
I don't know what they're going through.
During that night? Yes and no. I've chosen to be someone who doesn't use protection during oral sex, at least when I'm performing it. So, that's just my choice. That's my risk and my choice, and I choose to do that. And if he wanted to do some fun with that, that's fine. I would, but he's, so not to do that also. And yes, anytime there is anal sex or vaginal sex that happens anymore, there's always protection involved, no matter who it is. No matter who it is. With my partner now, even though it's HIV, we still use condoms. Always. There's a chance for reinfection. A big chance for reinfection. And I don't want to do this times 2 or times 3 or times 10. I don't want to do this. And I would never want anyone to ever be tempted from me. I don't know if I'm going to
Well, what's been coming out? So all that's, you said you got it over 20, so is that, I think.
That's what I found out.
But, like, see, I don't understand it. I don't know. Like, it seems as though, like, for years we've had information about it. And you still say that people, like, in that community where it started, the first people didn't know it was in, heterosexual. So even when people knew, it was still, like in the gay community, people would go to bars, look for people to have sex with, and go and have sex with. Yeah. Why is it?
They still do it. That's a bar is a place to meet people for sex. I mean, I think that's true in the straight community as well as the gay community. A bar is a place to meet people who have sex, or date, to eventually have sex.
No, I was laughing at you. I was laughing at the obligation of the straight people in the room to confirm for him that, yeah, straight people have more sex too.
I wasn't sure. Honestly. I don't know. Honestly, because I didn't really do the straight bar scene ever. So I don't know, and I don't know how women react to that well because I don't really have that experience. I only have my high school experience to go on.
See, it seems to me like, I mean, forget me because obviously I'm naive, but they, because people, they understand that there's a major risk. Why would you go to a bar and have sex with people? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just too much of a question.
It's not going to the bar and having sex with your risk. Okay, maybe the alcohol might not make you think so well, but it's having unprotected sex that makes you a risk. You always got to have in your pocket. That's why we're out at the bars doing outreach. Sorry?
So I said 2.
2 is better than 1.
No, it's one very expensive.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, you wouldn't want to. But anyway, I hear what you're saying. We do outreach at the bars because we know that people don't always carry that stuff. And we want to provide them, especially at last call. When you're at the door, you pass out bags, it's just like, take it or don't, but, we're here. And most of the people take them, Who wants to go and spend 10, 12, 15 bucks on a box of condoms when you can get much for free? So, I think we do a good thing. It goes over well. But, I don't know why somebody would, run their way to the excessive risk, but I just want to see the ads. It's not like, yeah, it's sex, it's intravenous drug use, it's totally preventable. No one compounded by the fact that a lot of those people don't go to the bar, and they don't go out and aren't out in their community or whatever. You know, they're kind of hiding still. There's a lot of those people. You know, there's people on the internet that don't go to bars to eat that way. It's huge. I mean, if you consider bisexuals on top of that, you got married men, you got all kinds of people. So yeah, basically it's pretty large in this town. There's only 2 bars. But there's 10. How many street bars are there? I mean, not counting like pubs, like dance clubs and stuff.
Are you including like a as part of?
It's a bar.
Were you including as one of the 2? Okay.
Oh, I'm sure some people probably here that go to school here probably do go there. And aren't gay, yeah, I know that. that have a lot of fun there. It's a cool place to be. And they do have a good crowd on, especially like Thursdays and Sundays. And I think that's awesome that you come out and be together like that. That's great. Never happened in my day.
Given your decision not to tell your friends,
Oh,
I keep going back to
That's
that.
okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
Please.
you know how you said there's a very minuscule risk using condoms, but it's a risk, no doubt.
It is.
Do you preach, like, not preach, but do you tell kids in high school abstinence, or do you tell them condoms?
No, when I go into schools, I tell them, schools always, the teachers always come to me and tell us that we're telling you, whoever is speaking, that it's imperative that we stress abstinence to these kids. That the parents want it, the school wants it, but that's what we have to do. So when I go in and I tell these kids, first thing off, I am not here to tell you not to have sex. I'm not here to tell you not to do drugs. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen if you do. Okay? That's what basically and I tell the kids that if you make the choice for abstinence, that's an awesome choice. And that it's great. And if you wait, it's going to be that much better when you finally get there. You know what I mean? Because not only have you been thinking about it, complaining about it, but when you finally hit that spot, whoa. And a lot of the kids pick up on that. I think that a lot of the kids are still abstinent in high school, though. There's quite a few. The majority aren't. I know that, and it's quite unrealistic to think that you can preach abstinence to kids who are already having sex. Once you go in there, you're never coming out. You know what I'm saying? I tell them that that's the best choice they can make. But I don't think that they can make it. And that it was a really hard thing for me to decide. I surely couldn't make a choice for abstinence back when I was in high school. And I share everything with them and I share with you. Sometimes I don't share the part that I share that made people upset. I don't do that all the time to high school kids, but I know it's going to cause problems. Sorry.
And maybe he'll lose the bigger point of your company.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to lose it.
No,
I completely understand.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I don't agree, but I
That's awesome. At least we're in that space. That's cool. Because you don't have to agree. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree. That's cool. It's fine. I don't always agree with the city. I still don't think it's necessarily wrong. But I wish that I could have done it and not felt bad about it. I wish I could go out and tell somebody that I chose not to. Have it not be a big deal, you know, it's a big fucking deal. It is. And people don't take that very well. It's too scary, it's too much. And I feel really hard for somebody to find anyone too close to them. If they didn't decide at that point enough. Not forever, for that night. It shows that everyone has a decision. Anybody that I know should. I can't imagine how I would do it if I had it. It feels
Do you encourage people who aren't in high risk factors to get tested, even though you found
still some risks there, but it's extremely for I encourage everyone to test it. It's important that you know what your health is at, where you're at with your health, and take care of yourself. And I am glad that you tested regularly. It was a big shock, a big life change, and kept me alive today. If I hadn't tested for any other reason, it could have gone a very long time without knowing. And probably could have some terrible illness like PCP, sepsis-sarcoma, or something terrible. That probably would have killed me. And so I'm glad that I got tested. I encourage everyone to. And there are plenty of places to test it. If you don't know, let me know.
I'm trying to encourage some of my friends who have only had one monogamous relationship. No, I'm not going to get tested because I'm not a doctor. How would you deal with a person like that?
You can't change what they feel or believe. If they don't really want to be tested, there's something else back behind it. If they weren't afraid, they would get tested. So somehow I think they're afraid of something. They're afraid of knowing the truth, maybe. They're afraid of finding out they're positive or the themselves, maybe.
Well, what would you tell them?
Get tested, damn it. No, I don't know. I try to maybe encourage them to go with me. Let's get tested together. Make it a buddy thing, make it a fun thing, make it not such a big a deal. Yes. And you can also tell them that they don't have to necessarily draw blood. There's a test now that they have a little swab stick. They stick it between your cheek and gum. And they like rub it in there for a minute or two, and maybe sit in there for like 2 minutes. Take it out, stick it in the bottle, and send it off to a lab. But still, it's not a needle. And some people don't get tested because they're afraid of needles. I mean, there's a fear somewhere in there. And I think the thing you need to do, if you can, is try to figure out what that fear is, and then try to settle it somehow. But it's different for everyone.
How accurate are the tests?
Oh, almost 100%.
Well, because I mean, like, you used to hear stories of like, this person got tested, but they're not sure, like on TV, like,
False positive.
false positive,
Or
or
false
false
negative.
negative, or like, it'll just show up months, you have to wait like 6 months, 8 months.
Right, that's totally different now too. The waiting period is like weeks now between when you had a risky behavior and when you can get tested. It's only like I think it's 3 to 6 weeks now.
I thought it was great.
3 weeks, yeah, it's somewhere around there. It's not 3 to 6 months, which it used to be. I lost my train of thought again.
How can you test from?
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I answered your question or touched on it at least, because I just told off my head about that.
How can you test from screening inside your mouth?
I think that it's, I'm not sure if it's, I think maybe it is saliva that actually they're testing.
I thought it wasn't.
It is present in saliva. If
But
you had
it's-
been paying attention at the beginning of class,
I wasn't here, I'm sorry.
it's okay, I'm just kidding. It's present in saliva, sweat, and tears, but in such a small quantity that it would literally take 5 quarts of each fluid.
But it can
once.
still, they can still.
They can find it, but it won't cause an infection. Unless you pour 5 quarts of slide down your throat. Yeah. I think that somebody who's carrying around that bucket collecting that saliva really needs to go and
I don't know, like that's the thing that made me realize, like think about that the most, like it got me over that whole saliva thing was that when I was in like high school and middle school, somebody like pointed to a trash can that was in a classroom and said, you'd have to drink that much at one time for that to really happen. And I mean like that, but that stuck with me. Yeah, but that stuck with me that, you know, like, wow, it takes that much that I'm not gonna get it because I share this person's fork or, you know, like, right, yeah. Exactly.
They come right on your shoulder.
Right.
That's awesome, yeah. And it's actually around right now.
Right.
Still.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think they're close to a cure, because I mean, they're close to cures on other viruses.
You think they are?
No, they're
Really?
not
Share
particularly.
this with me.
No, they are. Like, I was doing research on the Epstein-Barr virus.
Oh, okay.
Virus. They're pretty close to a cure. They've gotten many. They know what they need to do.
What is it? I mean, I would love to find out what they need to do.
But the thing is, like, they're not at all close with the oh, sorry.
HIV, right? they find ways to stop the replication and to get in its way and to stop taking from attaching themselves. They're finding ways to do that. But they're working on blocks. It's always blocks. I don't know if they're going to find a way to whatever they're doing. I mean, I don't know what they're doing to get rid of this MC virus. I can't imagine. Like how are they screening it from within? I mean, are they causing...
You can't kill a virus, but I mean, like, you can completely stop its replicating process.
Oh, okay.
You can't kill it. Right?
So it'll always be with you, but it won't hurt you.
That's the same thing with the AI.
Yeah, they will be able to. And they are kind of making advances. I mean, protease inhibitors are helping, and they're helping to keep people alive longer, but they're not improving quality of life. So they need to find some kind of combination so people feel like they're living a normal life as well as living long enough. So you definitely don't feel normal with those medications, I can tell you that.
I actually have to run off because we're going to be showing Boys on the Side tonight.
Ooh, good movie. I recommend it to everybody. Good movie.
.com. So I have to go set up for that. But I wanted to, because we were talking about testing for a long time, we're going to have some testing tomorrow and Thursday. And there's also testing sites are listed in all of the residence halls on the sheet with the big lobby pack. But also we have a shuttle van to 2 different testing sites. And tomorrow it's listed downstairs. I believe it's 1:15, 1:45, 3 in the Maywood parking lot. And we'll just be going, it takes approximately an hour to inspect, to block off a full hour of time. And we'll be taking either want to go and test with the van. Otherwise, there are other resources to either get to the testing or go with the friend.
It brings them back.
Yes, we bring people back. We don't leave you in here.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just want you guys to know about that. And then, encourage your friends that if they're considering being tested. Sometimes it's easier for people to go with other people and support. Other times
Especially if
people
they're doing it here.
Oh, we can't do it here.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
You're shuttling people, right? So
Yeah. So,
that's awesome.
so I'm sorry I have to run, but thank you very much. You guys definitely continue.
Thank you for letting me come in and speak. I got the letter right now, so I'm all set. Thank you very much. I just want to quickly say if there's anything else, I don't want to leave anybody back in here. Again, sorry.
You didn't piss me off.
Okay.
She's just a regular.
I understand it is and I respect it. Is there anything else that we do?
Further information, because I'd like to give you, one of the reasons why I'm actually here, because we have tried to get information to other folks, as well as questions, but just in case, like, so I can post them. Where sources?
College Project Worcester? Sure. I'm not actually not that sure. The references are like behind. I should have crossed them.
I'm sure.
College Project Worcester is a good reference for questions and stuff. So is learning services. College Project Worcester probably has the largest, as far as I know, for reference libraries. Check stuff out. They have materials there that you can take out. They also have machine. Videotapes, stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff and information. And we're always constantly looking for updated stuff.